Hello everyone. After completing visible spectroscopy, through this video tutorial, we are going to start next type of spectroscopy, and that is ultraviolet spectroscopy, which is in short known as UV spectroscopy. UV, ultraviolet spectroscopy, which is a chapter in the subject Instrumental Methods of Analysis of 7-cell BFAM. In visible spectroscopy, we have seen Lambert-Swier's law, then its principles, then instrumentation and applications of visible spectroscopy. That Lambert-Swier's law is also applied in this UV spectroscopy also, and almost instrumentation and applications are same, because visible spectroscopy and ultraviolet spectroscopy nowadays are not used separately, but UV visible spectroscopy, ultraviolet visible spectroscopy is used more practically. So, instrumentation and applications are almost same, but the theory and principle is different. So, in this video tutorial, we are going to see first theory or principle of ultraviolet, means UV spectroscopy. We have seen that wavelength range of visible region is 400 to 800 nanometer and ultraviolet region is 200 to 400 nanometer, means 2000 to 4000 angstrom. Wavelength region of UV in electromagnetic spectrum is 200 nanometer to 400 nanometer, which means 2000 to 4000 angstrom, and of visible region is 400 to 800 nanometer. So, what will be the wavelength region of UV visible? So, UV wavelength for UV visible region will be 200 to 800 nanometer. But here we are talking about UV spectroscopy, so the wavelength will be 200 to 400 nanometer. To be more accurate, it is 190 nanometer to 390 nanometer. But generally, we can say that it is 200 to 400 nanometer. And this region is also known as near UV region or simple UV region or near UV region, because far or vacuum UV region is called below 200 nanometer or 2000 angstrom. The wavelength below 200 nanometer or below 2000 angstrom is known as far UV or vacuum UV region. And in both UV as well as visible spectroscopy, valence electrons absorbs energy and undergoes transition from ground state to excited state. Already we have seen that in visible spectroscopy that after absorption of electromagnetic radiation, electron goes to the excited state from ground state. And because of that, ultraviolet and visible, both of these spectroscopies are considered in the class of absorption spectroscopy, because after absorption of electromagnetic radiation, means energy, electron goes to the excited state from ground state. It absorbs energy, that's why. And this absorption of electromagnetic radiation is a characteristic and depends on the nature of electrons present. Intensity of absorption depends on concentration and path length as given by Lambert-Swier's law. Now, origin and theory of ultraviolet spectra, UV spectra. UV absorption spectra arise from transition of electrons within a molecule from a lower to a higher electronic energy level, which means from ground state to excited state, and that's why UV spectroscopy is known as absorption spectroscopy. But UV emission spectra arises from the reverse type of transition, means UV emission spectra arises when this electron comes to the ground state from the excited state, and after emission of extra energy only the electron can come to the ground state from the excited state. So, UV and visible spectroscopy are also considered as emission spectroscopy as well as absorption spectroscopy. This is we have already seen in types of spectroscopy, that ultraviolet spectroscopy and visible spectroscopy, both of these spectroscopy are considered in both of these classes, absorption spectroscopy as well as emission spectroscopy. Because absorption means ground state to, because absorption means after absorbing EMR, electron goes to the excited state from ground state. But in that excited state, electrons are not stable. So they try to come to their original place, which is ground state, after emitting extra energy. So we can also get emission spectra, and that's why UV and visible spectroscopy are also considered as emission spectroscopy. In that case, we get UV emission spectra, and in absorption, in the case of absorption, we get UV absorption spectra. But generally, practically, we use absorption spectroscopy more than emission spectroscopy. And obviously, for a radiation to cause electronic excitation, it must be in the UV region of the electromagnetic spectrum, which means it must have wavelength of 200 to 400 nanometer. Now, when a molecule absorbs UV radiation of a frequency mu second inverse, the electron in that molecule undergoes transition from a lower to a higher energy level or a higher energy level or molecular orbital. The energy difference is given by E is equal to H into mu R. This equation we have already seen in the introduction part of spectroscopy, that energy E is equal to H into mu, where H is Planck's constant and mu is the frequency. So actual amount of energy required depends on the difference in energy between ground state and excited state of the electrons. That you can more easily understand by this figure. Here two orbitals are given, and the orbital below orbital has the energy E0 and the above orbital has energy E1, and the energy difference between these two orbitals can be given by E1 minus E0 is equal to H into mu. H means Planck constant and mu means frequency, right? So when any electron goes to the E1 orbital from E0 orbital, so to go from E0 orbital to E1 orbital, that electron must have energy H into mu, and when that energy electron gains, then only that electron can be able to cross this level, means cross this energy difference, and then only it can go to the E1 orbital. Where what happens, students, actually any electron in that orbital exists because that electron has sufficient energy to be in that orbital only, right? Now, when any electron gains energy, that means it has more energy to be in that particular, here we are talking about this specific electron. This electron is in the E0 orbital, right? Because it has the sufficient energy to be in this E0 orbital. Now, when it gets more energy, it cannot be in this orbital E0 because that electron has more energy. So, it will be excited, right? And now, it gains specific energy. Here we are talking about the specific energy H into mu. It gains specific energy H into, which is equal to the H into mu. Then only it can goes to the E1 orbital. But here the original place of this electron is E0, right? So this E0 orbital is ground state for this electron. And when it gains a energy equal to H into mu, it goes to the E1 orbital from E0 orbital, and there E1 orbital, in that orbital this electron is not stable, so that orbital will be excited state for this electron. See, after absorbing the electromagnetic radiation having energy H into mu, this electron goes to the E1 orbital, because here the energy difference between E1 and E0 orbital is H into mu. Now, we have already seen this in previous lectures that internal energy of any molecule is the total of electronic energy, vibrational energy and rotational energy. And the magnitude of these energies are in decreasing order from electronic energy to vibrational energy to rotational energy, which means electronic energy has the highest magnitude and rotational energy has the lowest magnitude, and the vibrational energy has more magnitude than electronic, less magnitude than electronic and more magnitude than means more value than rotational energy. Here we are in UV spectroscopy, we are talking about only electronic energy, but vibrational and rotational energies also plays some important roles in energy of any electrons, and that's why only we cannot get a discrete line in absorption spectra when any electron goes to the excited state from ground state. And because of these vibrational and rotational energies play an important role, these electronic energy means electronic absorption is superimposed upon rotational or vibrational sublevels. So instead of discrete line means straight line, we get absorption peak. And in case of complex molecules having more than 2 atoms, these peaks are also broadened, means broad peaks are obtained, means band overlaps. You can see in the figure, first figure is of discrete line, but in UV absorption spectra we cannot get discrete line because of rotational and vibrational energy of an electron. Second figure shows the band, means absorption peak. In below, third figure, which is in black color, shows these band, broadened bands, and the fourth figure, which is colored figure, shows the band overlaps. Now, types of electrons in an organic molecule. Majorly there are 3 types which plays an important role in organic molecule, or can say in UV absorption spectroscopy or UV spectroscopy. These electrons are sigma electrons, pi electrons and non-bonding electrons. Sigma electrons are involved in sigma bonds, pi electrons are involved in pi bonds, and non-bonding means n electrons are not involved in any bonds. And you are already aware that sigma bonds means single bonds, pi bonds means double or triple bonds, and non-bonding, right? So first we will talk about sigma electrons. Sigma electrons are involved in sigma bonds, which means in single bonds, which means in saturated bonds. Means sigma electrons are involved in saturated bonds. Here example of paraffin is taken. Paraffin means alkane. In any alkane between carbon and hydrogen, sigma bond means single bond means saturated bond exists. And these sigma electrons do not absorb near UV radiation, but they absorb far UV radiation. We have seen that near UV radiation means 200 to 400 nanometer and far UV radiation means below 200 nanometer. So these sigma electrons do not absorb near UV radiation, but they absorb below 200 nanometer means they absorb far UV radiation. So paraffin compounds means alkanes are very useful as solvents in UV absorption spectroscopy because they does not show any absorption or peaks in UV region means 200 to 400 nanometer. So they do not interfere with the peaks of our compounds, so they are used as solvents. Now second type of electrons are pi electrons. These electrons are involved in pi bonds, which means double and triple bonds, which means unsaturated bonds, which means they are involved in unsaturated hydrocarbons. Examples are trines and aromatic compounds. Here the example of benzene is taken. And the third type of electron is anelectrons, means non-bonding electrons, means they are not involved in any bonding. And which type of electrons are not involved in any bonding? So we can say that lone pair of electrons are not involved in any bonding, and these lone pair of electrons are present in sulfur, oxygen, nitrogen and halogens, and they absorb these valence electrons absorbs UV radiation very easily. So basically these 3 types of electrons plays very important role in UV absorption spectroscopy, because UV absorption spectroscopy is electronic type of spectroscopy, because it all depends on the electronic transition. So these electrons, sigma, pi and n electrons plays very important role in UV spectroscopy, because UV spectroscopy is all about transition of electrons from ground state to excited state and from excited state to ground state. So these three types of electrons, sigma electrons, pi electrons and non-bonding electrons. Sigma electrons are present in single bonds, pi electrons are present in double and triple bonds, and non-bonding electrons are not involved in any bondings. N electrons means lone pair of electrons. Now we will see electronic transitions and excitation process. Energy absorbed in UV region by complex molecules causes transitions of valence electrons in the molecule from ground state to excited state. Here valence electrons are mentioned repeatedly because valence electrons absorbs UV radiation more easily, and 90% of UV radiations are absorbed by valence electrons. So to understand this transition and excitation process, first we will see types of orbitals, which are bonding orbitals, anti-bonding orbitals and non-bonding orbitals. This is you have already seen in basic organic chemistry. We will just revise here that bonding orbitals means sigma and pi orbitals, then non-bonding orbitals means n orbital, and anti-bonding orbitals means pi star and sigma star orbitals. These bonding orbitals means ground level and anti-bonding orbitals means excited state or excited level. In this ground state or bonding orbitals, electrons are stable, while in anti-bonding orbitals or in excited state, electrons are not stable. Now what is bonding and anti-bonding? So these bonding orbitals means the orbitals in which electrons are present when they are involved in bonds between two atoms. Means bonding orbitals are present between two nuclei of two atoms, and these antibonding orbitals are present outside the nuclei of two atoms. Energy of bonding orbitals is less than the energy of two separated atoms, so they try to bond two atoms, and energy of antibonding orbitals is more than the separated two atoms, so they try to separate two atoms. Ultimately, bonding orbitals means they tries to bind two atoms, and antibonding orbitals means they tries to break the bond between two atoms, right? Bonding and antibonding both are in reverse, means when any bond breaks, then the antibonding orbitals. Electron goes from bonding to antibonding. When any bond breaks, electron goes from bonding to antibonding, right? And the energy arises when we goes from bonding orbital to antibonding orbital, which means sigma orbital has the lowest energy and sigma star orbital has the highest energy. Means the sigma has the lowest energy, more than that pi has, then more than that n has, more than that pi star orbital has, and the sigma star orbital has the highest energy. So the transitions possible will be n to pi star transition, pi to pi star transition, n to sigma star transition, and sigma to sigma star transition. These transitions are of electrons, because in these orbitals electrons exist. But when selection rules apply, these three transitions, sigma to sigma star, n to sigma star and pi to pi star are allowed usually. But n to pi star transition is forbidden usually. But here we will study all these four types of transitions. See here, the orbitals and transitions are given. You can easily see by saying the orbitals. First transition is n to pi star transition, means electron goes to the pi star orbital from n orbital. Then the second transition is pi to pi star transition, means electron goes from pi orbital to pi star orbital. Then the third transition is n to sigma star orbital, means electron goes from n orbital to sigma star orbital. And then T sigma to sigma star transition means electron goes from sigma orbital to sigma star orbital. So, main these four types of transitions are there of electrons. Energy arises from sigma to sigma star. So, we can easily say that energy values needed for the transition n to pi star is least and for transition sigma to sigma star is highest, right? Because energy difference of n to pi n and pi star orbital is least and energy difference between sigma to sigma star orbital is highest. So energy needed for n to pi star transition is least and energy needed for sigma to sigma star transition is highest. Here energy values needed for the transition is in increasing order from n to pi star, pi to pi star, n to sigma star and sigma to sigma star transition. Now we will see each of these transitions in detail. So first transition is n to pi star transition. We will see first n to pi star, then pi to pi star, then n to sigma star and then sigma to sigma star transition. So the first is n to pi star transition. I have already said that this transition requires lowest energy and lowest energy means longer wavelength, right? That we have already discussed that energy and wavelength both are inversely proportional. So the lowest energy means longer wavelength. This transition exhibits only a weak band in the absorption spectrum of that particular compound, and the peaks obtained due to these transitions are known as R bands. And this transition is shown by unsaturated molecules which contain oxygen, nitrogen and sulfur. Obviously, this transition is from n orbital to pi star orbital, means the electrons present in n orbital goes to the pi star orbital. So, the electrons which are present in n orbitals are non-bonded electrons, and non-bonded electrons are present in oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur or halogens which are present in unsaturated molecules. So this n to pi star transition is shown by unsaturated molecules having oxygen, nitrogen and sulfur. And the examples of types of compounds are aldehydes, ketones and nitro compounds. Now in aldehydes and ketones, without double or triple bond, R band occurs between 270 to 300 nanometer, but in carbonyl compounds having double bonds separated by two or more single bonds, carbonyl compounds having double bonds which are these double bonds separated by two or more single bonds, in that case R band occurs between 300 to 350 nanometer. Usually R band occurs between 270 to 300 nanometer, and in second case it occurs between 300 to 350 nanometer. Now we can characterize these, means we can identify these n to pi star transition from absorption spectra by two methods. First one is by comparing the absorption spectra of any compound in normal condition and as well as in acidic condition. By comparing absorption spectra of these two conditions, we can identify the peak or band due to this n to pi star transition. Because in acidic condition, lone pair of electron forms bond with proton present in acid. So in acidic condition, the lone pair of electrons are not available for transition. So in acidic condition, these peak or band due to n to pi star transition does not exist in absorption spectra. So by comparing these two spectra, we can easily say that we can easily identify n to pi star transition. Here example of pyridine is taken. Here simple pyridine in normal condition gives peak, but in acidic condition pyridine does not give peak due to n to pi star transition, because lone pair of nitrogen forms bond with proton present in acid. And the second method is comparison of spectrum of compound containing heteroatom with a similar compound not containing heteroatom. Here example of pyrazine and benzene is taken because their structure is similar except the presence of two nitrogens. So pyrazine shows lambda max at 300 nanometer while benzene does not show any band at 300 nanometer. So we can easily say that in pyrazine N to pi star transition is there. So these two methods are used to identify N to pi star transition. First one is in acidic condition and second one is with and without this heteroatom. Now second transition is pi to pi star transition. This transition gives three bands B, E and K. First transition means N to pi star transition gives R band while this pi to pi star transition gives B, E and K bands. B bands are known as benzenoid bands, E bands are known as ethylenic bands and K bands are known as pi to pi star bands. These B bands are because of aromatic and heteroaromatic system, while E bands are because of aromatic systems, means they are present in aromatic systems, and K bands are shown by conjugated systems. We have already seen that energy requirement of this pi to pi star transition is in between N2 sigma star and N2 pi star, means less than N2 sigma star and more than N2 pi star. But extended conjugation, which means addition of more double or triple bonds and alkyl substitution, shift lambda max towards longer wavelength. And this shifting of lambda max towards longer wavelength is known as bathochromic shift. Bathochromic shift. And trans-isomer of olefin absorbs at longer wavelength with more intensity than its cis isomer, which is known as bathochromic shift. Shifting of lambda max towards longer wavelength is known as bathochromic shift, and shifting towards more intensity is known as hyperchromic shift. All of this shift we will see in detail, so you can more easily understand in next lecture. In short, here extended conjugation and alkyl substitution shift lambda max towards longer wavelength and with more intensity. But these two conditions, extended conjugation and alkyl substitution, shift lambda max to such an extent that this lambda max falls in the colorimetric region, because lambda of UV is 200 to 400 and coloring means visible is 400 to 800 nanometer, and shifting of lambda towards higher value means these two conditions shift lambda max into colorimetric region, and the example for that is plant pigments like beta carotene and lycopene. The third type of transition is N2 sigma star transition. It occurs in saturated compounds with heteroatoms like sulfur, oxygen, nitrogen and halogen. First transition N2 pi star occurs in unsaturated compounds, while this N2 sigma star occurs in saturated compounds. It requires less energy than sigma to sigma star. Peaks due to this transition occurs from 180 to 250 nanometer, and 180 means below 200 nanometer, and because these peaks are observed at lower end of the spectrum, they are also known as end absorption. Lower end means this band, see here, this spectra goes from left side to right side, right? It goes from left side to right side. And here 200 nanometer is there and here 400 nanometer is there, which means spectra goes from 400 nanometer to 200 nanometer here. And the spectra due to N2 sigma star falls between 180 to 250 nanometers, which means they are at the end of the spectrum, so they are known as end absorption peak, right? End absorption peaks. Now, here we have discussed about solvents. When absorption are measured in UV region, aliphatic alcohols and alkyl alkyl halides are used as solvents because they start to absorb at 260 nanometer. But when absorption are measured in colorimetric region, in such cases saturated hydrocarbons are used because they absorb in 200 to 260 nanometer. But these saturated hydrocarbons suffer from one drawback, that they are poor solvating agents. Solvating power means the power to form bond within dissolved solute molecules and the solvent molecules. Power of any solvent to form bond with the dissolved solute molecule is known as solvating power. In saturated alkyl halides, energy required for N2 sigma transition decreases with increasing size of halogen atom or with decreasing electronegativity of atom, because as size of halogen atom increases, its electronegativity decreases, and with this energy required is also decreases, because that we can understand by comparing the transition of methyl chloride and methyl iodide, and we all know that electronegativity of chlorine is more than the electronegativity of iodine. So electrons of chlorine atoms are difficult to excite than the electrons of iodine atoms. So lambda max for methyl chloride is 172 to 175 micromu, while for methyl iodide is 258 micromu, which means methyl iodide has lambda max of higher value, and the lambda higher means energy lower. Wavelength and energy both are inversely. So wavelength higher means energy lower, because electrons of iodine atoms are loosely bound, so they requires less energy to excite than the electrons of chlorine atom. I am repeating, methyl chloride and methyl iodide. Electron negativity of chlorine atom is more than the electronegativity of iodine atom. So electrons of chlorine atoms requires more energy than the electrons of iodine atom to be excited, and energy higher means lambda wavelength lower. So lambda max of methyl chloride is 172 to 175, while for methyl iodide is 158, because methyl chloride needed more energy than the methyl iodide, and more energy means less wavelength. Then these N2 sigma transitions are also very sensitive to hydrogen bonding. Alcohols and amines forms hydrogen bonding with solvent molecules very easily, and because of this hydrogen bonding, transitions of electrons present in alcohols and amines needs more energy, which means hydrogen bonding shift UV absorption to shorter wavelength, because they need more energy means shorter wavelength. Here are some compounds with N2 sigma transitions are given with their lambda max. Methanol has lambda max 203, then ethanol has 204. And the last transition is sigma to sigma star transition. This transition occurs in compounds in which all the electrons are involved in only sigma bonds, which means in single bonds only. Here there is no lone pair of electron, which means this transition occurs in saturated hydrocarbons, and the energy of sigma bond is highest. That's why this transition requires highest energy of all the four types of transition. Absorption band due to this transition occurs in the far UV region, means 126 to 135 nanometer. For example, lambda max of methane is 121.9 nanometer and ethane is 135 nanometer. And because commercial spectrophotometers generally do not operate at wavelength less than 180 nanometer, so these transitions cannot normally be observed in commercial spectrophotometers, means the spectrophotometers which we use generally in laboratories and in industries. So, because of this reason, saturated hydrocarbons like cyclohexane, methane, ethane can be used as non-polar solvents as it does not show any solvent peak, so they do not interfere with the peaks of our compound, so they can be used as solvents. And because of this reason only saturated hydrocarbons are used as solvents in UV absorption spectroscopy. So this was all about these 4 transitions. Thank you.